Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of GotUrSix TV. I'm Keith, your host. With the recent announcement from Facebook regarding changes to their algorithm, got the community talking, specifically the business and startup community talking. So we thought it'd be a pretty good idea here on GotUrSix to bring in a real pro in this digital media marketing world, see if we can get this sorted out for us. We're going to spend some time to talk with an Army veteran and co-founder of a company whose mission is to help companies launch, scale, and optimize the digital media landscape, and a pretty damn fun place to work. GotUrSix TV's mission is to enhance the lives of active duty veterans and their families, provide a platform just like what we're doing here today, and host a guest that can help share some of those lessons learned and experiences to help those that follow behind. As usual, we're sponsored by Your Move, which is a free neighborhood discovery app. Check it out on iTunes. We wanted to welcome Tristan Flannery, co-founder of 0 Hour Media. So if you ever wanted to hear more about the potential impacts of business with all of these different algorithms on the different social media, and maybe curl up to a nice warm fire right by the launch den, stay right here. Tristan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
So, Tristan, let's take a step back before we get into this fun, crazy, zany algorithms and digital media world, and start in a place that maybe doesn't have as many of that digital media sort of marketing experience. Let's take you back to when you started with the Army. Tell us why, you kind of chose to go the path of Army, and what did they teach you about digital media?
So I joined the Army and I wanted to be an Army Ranger, and I ultimately succeeded in that, serving in 2nd Ranger Battalion and then in a Stryker Brigade later on. I left the Army after 4 years as a non-commissioned officer. I was moderately proficient at Microsoft Word, so I think we could maybe connect copywriting to digital media, but that's probably where it stopped. So right after that, basically, I went on the job hunt, explored some options because I was definitely going to be the most qualified candidate anybody had ever seen.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they told me in the transition program, so it had to be true. So I actually ended up in door-to-door sales, where I met my co-founder, who's also my best friend, and things kind of went up and up after that.
So, and I want to get into that. One of the topics we can talk about is starting a business with a buddy, which, could go in a different direction. Seems like you guys are going straight up. So that's great. But let's talk a little bit just briefly about transition. You transitioned from the Army service, then you went into the civvy world and worked in civilian government for a while. So you've done a couple of transitions. So tell us, just maybe at a high level, what'd you kind of take away from those experiences? And if you could do it again, and I know you wouldn't, what would you do?
So my first transition, as I like to say, was in 2003 when I got out of the Army. And I would just say that I made some mistakes. I should have probably focused on going directly to school. I should have probably tried to, take advantage of some educational opportunities in the service still, and really line my ducks up. And what I didn't do is I didn't leave the service with a plan. So shortly thereafter, I started having to go on the job hunt, and, that was just a struggle for about a year until I started working overseas. In early 2004, I started working for the DoD, and then later on for the State Department. And then after that for, the intelligence community, and worked there for a while in a couple different countries. And then the real transition happened, because I was totally comfortable working around a bunch of, people just like me, and, having great experiences and putting all the skill sets that I'd learned in the military to good use. But then it was different. Then it was, here's 2014, and, all of this is coming to a screeching halt, and I'm deciding that I want to do something else with my life. And I'm not making 6 figures anymore. I'm not transitioning from that field with a degree. I'm not, very marketable, actually. I've got great hard skills, but I don't have any skills that apply in everyday America. So lots of lessons learned there.
Yeah, and I think, when I transitioned out of Homeland Security, that was one of the things I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but that kind of knew what I wanted to do. It was a 2-year journey up here to get to what the hell do I want to be when I get the hell out of here to what is it? And, you go back and you figure out what your passions are and kind of what you're really interested in. And so that was kind of the route. But I tell you, it was a 2-year runway for me to get out of Dodge, right?
Yeah, for me, it was similar. I looked at the traditional paths that most people take that I knew, it was join law enforcement, join a fire department, do something along those lines. But those didn't really speak to me. I thought they were great career fields, just not for me really. And so I explored different opportunities. I started consulting. I was working as a landscaper. I worked in a bar. It was hilarious. I was a pretty accomplished professional by the time that I was working as a bouncer at a college bar. So it was, I will say that it wasn't really about the amount of failure, but it was about the perseverance. I never took my foot off the gas.
As a bouncer, did you ever get a chain in the ear?
No, I got pretty fortunate with that. So.
There's a great country and western song where he says, I got hit with a chain and my ear still rings.
Well, considering that I felt like it could be most of the patrons' dad. So I was looking at them. I'm like, good Lord, kid, just stop. Don't do this to yourself. But it was interesting. One of my really close friends, Chris Story, he just kept telling me, look, we need to get you into a corporate environment. You need to start growing again. You need to make a transition. It's a great opportunity. And so that's what I did. And that year and change that I spent in corporate was incredible for me. I learned so much because I had him as a mentor and I had great coworkers, and the understanding of business vernacular and understanding what a stakeholder is and how to achieve buy-in and all of those little things that seem inconsequential when you're in the military sure matter when you're on the outside.
They really do. And so what were maybe a couple of things that you picked up in addition to translating sort of military ease into business, say, jargon? What else did you kind of pick up in that year and a half that said, you know what, not only do I kind of have the passion for this sort of digital media world, but I'm actually going to go do it. So what was something that kind of goosed you along the way? Was it your mentor?
Yeah, he was a big part of it. He was writing articles on LinkedIn. And so, he was always asking me to share a little bit about myself and to, as he put it, decommando myself, which was a great way to put it. And it really worked. So learning how to brief senior vice presidents and C-suite executives and all the important people in a major, Fortune 100 corporation gave me a real understanding of what matters in business and what doesn't matter when I approach people that have the ability to affect change. So by the time I left that environment and I started consulting, and I consulted on a couple different really large scale projects, it was so easy. And I would look around and I would see, highly accomplished veterans who'd never made that transition really struggle and stumble when trying to brief high-level, business executives. So having that foundation really set me up to start understanding the value of communication and how to brief up and how to communicate a message to somebody who is a shareholder, how to communicate it to an investor. And by the time I made the leap to go into business with Joe, my co-founder, it was natural. I knew who I had to talk to if I wanted to approach a client.
Yeah, that sounded like it served as quite a foundation and a launch pad for you and your buddy to get this thing started. So let's get into it. So you guys co-founded a year and a half ago or a year or so ago, 0 Hour Media. And yep. We're gonna walk through that because starting a media platform and a media company with media services in a kind of a congested marketplace, there's a couple of things that I want us to make sure that we cover today, but let's get started. And I'm a huge capitalist. So what was the business proposition? What's the value proposition? Why'd you get it started, 0 Hour? So
one of the big things that Joe had dealt with, Joe has been in marketing for 10 years. And one of the things that he started coming in contact with were different veteran entrepreneurs. And when he was trying to communicate different things that they had to do to ensure more success in their businesses, they often pushed back, and he wasn't sure how to get through to them. So ultimately, he asked me, look, if you would communicate with these guys, I think they would listen to you because you have a mutual background. Maybe you can get through to them on some of the things. And I said, well, what are some of the things? And he said, well, you need to get guys in front of the camera. I go, oh, well, that's going to be a struggle because I don't really like cameras either. But yeah, you know, in short order, we realized within a week, you know, we did a thorough search in terms of anyone servicing veteran-owned companies, and realized that there were a few different small businesses that were doing it, but nobody was doing it at scale, and we really wanted to take that market segment over. So 0 Hour Media was created instead of me working as a business development or as a consultant for his company. His company was down to him and an admin and a web developer at the time. And he was restructuring it. He'd experienced his own challenges and decided he wanted to restructure the company. So we started off with pretty much a clean slate. And within 3 months, we had 6 people, and then we had 10, and you know, now we're up to 15. And it's amazing. I mean, we've worked with some great organizations. You know, Bunker Labs is one of them.
Yep.
Really, really connected to Justine Evers, the Bunker Labs Bay Area executive director.
We're going to have her on in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to it.
Justine's one of my favorite people, so you're going to have one interesting story between the work she's doing at Founders Institute, Bunker Labs, and then also Paradigm Switch. I mean, there's no shortage of content there. And then you know, we work with the Green Beret Foundation. Friend of mine there, also a veteran, Manny Parra. He's working in the Bay Area doing the ambassadorship for them, and it's phenomenal. It's, you know, we've had some real fun with that.
Yeah, and you do anything with Facebook or LinkedIn yet?
Yeah, so actually it was really funny. It's about 2.5 months in, we'd help with the promotion for the Vets in Tech hackathon at Facebook, and that was actually the first time I spoke to an audience about marketing. So that was pretty nerve-wracking. I really didn't have a whole lot of marketing experience at that point. I was still drinking water through a fire hose, which really hasn't changed, but I retain more water now. So it was good times.
Yeah. So what did you learn about being up on the stage talking marketing for the first time after you got over the initial Super Bowl jitters for the first 5 minutes? How did you settle in?
So it was great. It was great. We had an awesome team out there, some phenomenally capable entrepreneurs that I'm still in touch with now. I mean, I'm sure you'll have them on your show at some point, like Sonny Tosco and Mike Nemke and all those types of you know, changers and really change agents. And it was great as I'm standing there and I'm explaining to them the value of getting in front of the camera and getting out of the you know, the shadows, really, because that's the one thing that's a giant Achilles heel for veterans is when you're in the service, the spotlight is considered one of the most negative places you can be. It's either you screwed something up or something really bad happened and, you know, someone's getting an award for it. And so nobody wants to be in the spotlight, but really the only way to engage your market audience is to step into that spotlight and deliver some sort of value to your audience, to connect with them.
Yeah, and I think that's really great advice because, you know, there's the Kim Kardashian effect where you put a grapefruit on a stand and you put a camera on it long enough, sooner or later people will watch it. Well, not everybody wants to be Kardashian, right? And it's very hard to step from behind the scenes and then to in front of the scenes and make that transition. But I think one of the things that probably folks could take away from this conversation is if you don't, there are others that will be doing that. So how do you get seen, at least so you can go and then have a conversation to find out if you can provide value, you know, back to a particular group?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, we're not trying to boil the ocean. You know, what the Kardashians are doing is they're leveraging everything that they've got successfully and they're making a fortune doing it. But that's not, the value proposition there is entertainment, right? Like people want to see it because it's entertaining. But I often kind of, and this is something we can touch on with the Facebook algorithm changes and the way Facebook prioritizes content, but value is also informational. And I mean, when I look at some of the different people, and I've been really active on LinkedIn, when I see a lot of the veterans who are becoming veteran influencers on LinkedIn, Bernard and Karen and Matthew and Michael Quinn and all those people, they're always giving. They're never asking for anything, and I admire that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice too. So always lead with, what can I do for you, right? As opposed to, here's what I want from you. I think that's a great other lesson. So before we get into all the crazy algorithms and our friends over at Facebook and LinkedIn and others that may have a ripple effect on changing algorithms in 2018, one of the things that with any entrepreneur, when you're getting started, sometimes you can feel like, my God, I literally am a garage. I'm a garage band, right? I'm in the garage. And you look around and the only thing that's in the garage is an oil can, maybe a refrigerator with some crappy Bud Light. And you're like, wow, I'm all alone. What's interesting about what you guys offer, and I wanted to talk about this, is a concept called a launch den. Mm-hmm. And so that, to me, when I was talking earlier about a warm fireplace, the way you feel about a warm fireplace, to me, that's what what it looks like your company can offer is help an entrepreneur or someone that's transitioning out of service that has an idea for a company, or a company maybe it's been around a couple of years, come in and work with a group of professionals that will help them, right? Get their head right around their market, their value, their clients, their services, right? So I don't want to step over your conversation about Launch Den, but the only thing I would suggest is it could be great for startups, and it's a health check. To me, everybody needs to go to the doctor at least once a year, make sure get you goo, everything's working. But I think the value here is, can you come in once a year and find out, how are we doing? Are we still heading in the right direction? Is our mission, are we aligned to what we said we were going to do? Does that sound about right for the Launch Den?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea really, where you have a phenomenal amount of, or a massive amount of phenomenal resources now to constantly do that pulse check on yourself. One of the things that you don't see when you're working in business, and which is why outside consultants are so sought after, is you're not getting a perspective from the outside where people analyze where your shortcomings are. You think you're doing great because you're achieving this goal, but what you don't understand is that you're actually cutting yourself short in expectation. You should be thinking 5x the engagement that you're getting. Right. So that's where the launch then really comes in, is the idea of sitting you down and working with you through all of your challenges and understanding your pain points. And then from there, doing a full-scale marketing analysis of where you stand, where you could improve, what a good strategy would be for you to follow, and then implement that plan and follow it. Oftentimes people, and this is a great thing about this new quality control in Facebook posts, for instance, a lot of marketing companies will try to sell you snake oil. They'll tell you, oh, if you sign up for this and you pay $99 a month, we're going to get you 500 leads a week. Yeah, you might get 500 leads a week, but they're garbage.
Right.
Nothing will. There's no shortcut in marketing. There are some growth hacks you can exercise, but it's a long game. So what we try to show with that is, when you come in, we sit down, we spend a few days with you, and we work through every single facet. And in the process, we're also going to help you if you have a CMO. If you don't have a CMO, we'll function as that moving forward, and then really assume a whole-scale holistic strategy for you to execute your plan to grow.
I think that's great. And I would encourage folks, if you haven't had a chance to do that, reach out. I don't care if you've been in business 5 years, right? I think there's an expression we've used a lot, is the self-licking ice cream cone. And if you don't have another group that's going to help you give an outside in look that's objective and isn't just going to say, hey, everything's peaches and cream, you got some challenges over here, I think that's a great value offering. I love that expression. Marketing is a long game. So let's take a step, maybe removed a little bit from just your company, and then go a little bit bigger and what's happening out in the market right now in the digital world. So Facebook recently announced some changes to the algorithm. That's got a lot of startup and smaller businesses, and even some of the larger ones that really rely on that platform to help get the word out and engage, saying, holy shnikes, what's going to happen to us now? Or how do we need to react so we can continue to grow value through those marketing channels? So what do you think? Let's start with Facebook, and then maybe talk about where you see LinkedIn and some of the other platforms reacting to that or helping to set their baselines on algorithms.
Well, I think it's finally happened, right? Like we finally hit the tipping point on negativity. Like people are tired of it. You know, Mark was really concerned and put out statements, you know, about having possibly built something that is a detriment to society rather than an improvement. Facebook was always about the personal connection. It was always about, you know, reuniting you with people that you didn't have contact with. It created this omnipresent touch point. Now all of a sudden, it's become a barrage of spam, of crappy ads, of all this, you know, political junk that really most people don't want to engage with.
Yep.
And at the same time, now what this is providing an opportunity to kind of start with a cleaner slate. So when I talk to people who are in media and who are producing content and who are posting content for business reasons, they're talking about their engagement numbers either dropping or remaining steady. And here's the difference. If your numbers have drastically dropped, it's because you were producing content that really truly wasn't valuable. It was just content, and you were creating so much content because you wanted to optimize your content strategy to inundate people with your stuff. If you produce valuable content, even if it's less content, and let's say you're posting, you know, once a day, but you're posting one good piece of content rather than 7 mediocre pieces, now Facebook is going to prioritize that because the audience is engaging with good content because there's a value prop there, right? The value prop is, me, for instance, as a marketing person, I want to help you. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not saying, hey, come buy my services. I'm just saying, look, if you have a business and this is what you're doing, here's a good strategy to employ right now. And then people can decide for themselves whether they agree with it or not. If there's positive engagement, Facebook will see it as value added and I'll get more priority. If it's junk because I'm just asking for your money, I'm going to disappear from your feed.
Yep. And so what are you hearing from maybe some of your clients about how they're thinking about it? Are they literally all coming to you saying, hair's on fire?
So nobody is that concerned yet. And that's a good thing. Mainly because we're closely monitoring everything that we're doing. We're looking at the advantages that paid traffic, meaning if we put advertising dollars behind a different, you know, a post or a campaign and how it's performing, we're not seeing any decrease. And that's a good thing. That means that what we've been delivering has been above board, thankfully, and we've had the right type of content. It has never been clickbait content. It's never been something to just lure you into a sales funnel that doesn't give you any value in exchange for your information, for instance.
Sure.
So one of the great things was a client of ours, a friend of mine too, Project K9 Hero. We produced a video for them last week or 2 weeks ago now, and then we did a sprint with him and Amanda and just sat down and hammered out everything for them. The video was performing incredibly well organically. I mean, it crushed it. It hit over 100,000 views in a day and some. And that was a success. That was a massive success because everyone around was freaking out because their numbers were tanking. So I was pretty happy to see that people felt it was a value add.
So let me ask you this. Getting to 100,000 views on a video, no matter what the video is, no matter what industry, I don't know, maybe it's tailored per industry, but what are some of the tips that you would maybe suggest to people to think about to have high organic growth on a video?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One, if you have a huge following and you have an engaged audience, you're going to hit that quickly. I mean, that's not even hard. If you're a smaller business or a smaller nonprofit and you're trying to grow and you hit 100,000, it's pretty significant. So the golden rule is always that you would rather want an engaged following than a massive following that's disengaged. So for us, when you post a video, the idea really is make sure that it's quality. Make sure that whatever you're doing, that you feel proud of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you should be proud to show it. And if it's you know, budgetary constraint because you don't have, you know, the money to produce or to have somebody produce high quality video, then just think about how your video could be interesting. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just, you know, you're looking at a webcam and you're talking about something, if that video is interesting and people are engaging with it, for instance, on LinkedIn, and then you share it on Twitter and you might share it somewhere else, you could reach those engagement numbers as well.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And really, I haven't seen much of a change in at least the way that we're doing it, but it's a little different. My model's a little bit different, right? We're not, selling anything, right? So, so I guess the thought there would be, if you're providing value and it's not a, hey, I'm immediately going to suck you into the sales funnel, there may be a good opportunity that, and you're providing value to your constituents and the folks that are watching it, and it aligns with their values and what's important to them, then there may not be as big an impact on some of these groups. Well,
absolutely. And if you think about some brands can only live off of their influencers, that's done now. Because as an influencer, you're not a person anymore, you're a business account. So the business accounts are getting less priority now compared to the personal accounts. So if your whole brand just lives off of the fact that, 1 or 2 or 3 influencers that you've purchased or that are part of your company are producing content, that's a pretty bad model to have right now. And they're going to have to rethink things pretty quickly. So just create value, do something natural, do something positive, and it will move up. There's no doubt about it.
So are we going to be driving up and down the Ventura Highway or over here in DC up and getting off of 95 and seeing the guys with the signs that said used to be an influencer, now I'm broke? Do we see that happen?
It's possible. Depends on the price of cardboard and ink. So
maybe they'll go back online and say, here's how you beg for money online.
Exactly.
So what are some of the other trends maybe on LinkedIn that you would want folks to be aware of? I mean, that platform, my old boss years ago said, Trippie, get on LinkedIn. I said, He said, get on it. And it took him about a few months to get me to get on there. It's one of the best tips he ever gave me. And certainly when you're transitioning from service, or even if you've been out maybe a year or two, that network, the force multiplier that can do for you, I think it's remarkable. But this is more your world than mine. I'm just talking from real world sort of experience. From the professional side, what do you see on LinkedIn that our veterans would maybe take advantage of?
Well, I think LinkedIn has proven itself to be a phenomenal repository for quality information. It's amazing to watch people just excel at LinkedIn because they were tired of the noise on Facebook. So I think that there's going to be a shift now that Facebook has cleaned things up and more engagement is being driven to user groups, which the user groups are highly active and, if properly moderated, deliver an incredible amount of knowledge and information that's easily accessible. What's great about LinkedIn is, on LinkedIn, if you follow some of the people on there, Michael Quinn, Matthew Rosebog, Karen Sendra, all of them, right? Like Natalie Oliverio, like you follow them and you're paying attention to what they're telling you as either someone who is assessing whether or not to leave the service, is already in transition, or has already transitioned 15 years ago. It doesn't matter. You're going to be able to leverage the contacts because they're going to explain to you how to use the platform, how to connect with people, and the integration of video that's happening in LinkedIn now. Case in point, you saw the video that I posted. That video got a lot of positive feedback, and it was great because nobody really wants to read in this day and age when they're sitting in a boardroom meeting. They're listening to the CFO drone on about last year's numbers and they're not intrigued by it, but they'll watch a video on their smartphone and pretend they're taking notes. It's 70% of all content is consumed without video or without sound on video. So the great thing about that is if you create a decent video and you subtitle it, you're winning. You're already ahead. And LinkedIn is facilitating that. They're now starting to integrate the video into the groups feature, which I think is hugely valuable. LinkedIn groups have always been a struggle for as long as they've existed. They're oftentimes just filled with people who are just throwing stuff at the wall.
Right.
And very little engagement and interaction. So it happens mostly on people's private pages or their posts. So I do think that there is an opportunity that LinkedIn can leverage right now to still maintain its relevance in terms of connecting the professionals of the world. But a lot of that is already happening on Facebook because the groups feature on LinkedIn has been so weak. So I think if you're on both, you can really find a happy medium.
Yeah, I think that's a nice sort of way to sort of balance it out. And do you see in Instagram and Twitter maybe maybe not as business focused, or maybe if you own a retail store or you're selling something online and you want to show pretty products, Instagram may be a way to go. How do you see Instagram and Twitter in the veteran community or military spouse community?
I think each platform has its merits, right? Like whether you're on Snapchat or whether you're on Instagram or whether you're on Pinterest or on Twitter, it just depends on where your customer resides. Mm-hmm. So if you're a journalist or you're somebody who's involved in, you're a professional writer, you're an editor, you're going to want to be on Twitter. That is your spot. That is where all of your tribe resides, right? They're not going to be on Pinterest. They might be on Pinterest for their personal reasons, but they're not there for professional reasons. Pinterest has a huge amount of leverage. If, for instance, you had products that you wanted to display, you could put them up there. Same thing with Instagram. Instagram is a beautiful platform for any business that produces something, and they can show it. It could also be you're teaching shooting courses. Someone I used to work with, like, he's very active on there.
Yep.
His Instagram's updated multiple times. If you're involved in dog sports, Instagram is a great place to be. So I think that each one of these platforms has merit. What you really want to make sure of as a business owner is that you're not posting the same content multiple times over on different platforms at the same time, because you're going to exhaust your audience.
So, you jumped ahead of me here, because one of the questions I had for you is, for the neophytes out there, maybe like me and some others that don't do this for a living, what is the holy crap, do not do that? What is the holy crap, don't do that tip?
It depends on the platform, but generally I would say if you're a business, there are some who are bucking that trend, but stay away from politics. Yep. I think in this day and age, when I see an ad and it includes women in bikinis, or it's just like boobs and guns, it just doesn't speak to me as a customer. It doesn't speak to the majority of the millennials anymore. They're turning away from it. I think if you keep it intriguing and you keep it humorous, that's good. If you're offensive, you're going to get a lot of attention, but negative attention ultimately doesn't benefit you as a business owner. It's cool to be noticed because you posted a crass tweet, and in some cases you can win elections doing things like that because you're constantly diverting attention. But the reality is you want to stay in a place where you're focused on what you're good at and delivering that to people and seeing what they respond with, right? If people are really intrigued and they're buying from you because you post good content, then stay with that. Don't try to change the narrative every 5 weeks.
And what's a pretty good rotation to change and come up with different ideas on the marketing? Do you try to run with a couple of themes, let it run for a couple of weeks, gauge results?
Yeah, I think you can do it. You can do a couple different things. You can run split tests to see what works with what audience. So you would use ads for that and kind of see where people respond to it, and then build a content strategy off of that. The other thing would be if you're limited on funds and you're just trying to create some, good quote cards and maybe some things that you think will start driving engagement. That's good. I would do a lot of video. We're huge video advocates. Film what you're doing, film what your team's doing. If it's just you, film yourself doing it. People love looking behind the curtain. It's huge for them. It really connects with the audience. Speak from the heart. Don't read off a script. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Just be authentic.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And then kind of looking under the hood is always an interesting thing, because when I was a kid, growing up, and you always see the news, like Walter Cronkite and Peter Jennings and all those guys. And then I got to actually go to a TV set one time. And I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't what was in my head, Well, right. And what's great is, like, you see those formats, they live on for decades sometimes successfully, right? Because people are conditioned to, they have the expectation when they turn on the TV at this hour that they're going to get exactly what they want, and it's going to be, it's going to be portioned properly for them to consume, whether it's, international, national, business, and sports, in some flavor, that's going to be what's happening. So when you're creating your content strategy,
think about what you want to achieve. What's important to you in this? The essential thing is that you want to connect with your audience. You want to make sure that they're aware of what you're putting out and that it's ultimately done with purpose, because you want to entice your audience to connect with you financially as well as a business. It's great to show them videos of kittens and all the other things that make them laugh, and you get 5,000 likes that way. But if you're a steel manufacturing company, that doesn't really translate into a sale.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty good tips for the group. If you had a few minutes with maybe some kids coming out of college that are thinking they want to get into the digital marketing world, or if you had a chance to talk with some transitioning service members before they exited stage left, or a group of maybe military spouses, and you're all in a room,
right?
Everybody's got some wine or cold beer or some Heroes vodka or America bourbon.
Yeah, well played. Good plans.
And they came to you and said, "Hey, give us some tips. What would be a couple things that you would want these aspiring sort of digital marketing people to be thinking about?"
Do not go to college and get a marketing degree. If that's what you want to do, don't do it. Yeah, I know it's a revelation of sorts. I would say this: don't go to college to get a marketing degree. There's a lot of reasons why you should not do that. One of them being that this is really a skill. It's wonderful for you to have a marketing degree if you already have one, or if you're close to completing it, you're going to learn all the fundamentals. But the reality is, just as fast as this Facebook algorithm changes, or Google changes something in how it conducts SEO, or how it launches ads, or how it allows you to launch ads, or the terms of service on Twitter are updated, or a new platform comes online, think about the time that it takes for a school to build a curriculum around that, then to implement the curriculum, then to get their money back in terms of investment, right? They want a return on their investment. So they sunk, let's call it $20,000 into building this curriculum, or, $100,000. And now they want to milk this for a couple of years, right? They want to get something out of it. But the reality is, if you started a marketing degree in 2017, by now, so much has changed in the last 12 months that, yes, you're learning the fundamentals, but you're not really going to be super qualified to run Facebook ads for my company or to become my next marketing director. But if you're hands-on and you're a fast learner and you take some of the great courses out there and you learn from the right people, and you're investing yourself in education, you're interning at a marketing agency, you're going to have a phenomenal head start. So save yourself the $60,000 or the $100,000 that you're going to have to give up for your education, and start working in the field. See if you like it, if it speaks to you. And if you do, you're going to make that probably your first year or two.
Right. And I threw that up on the screen. Get your OTJ degree.
Yep.
Right? Forget all the other stuff in book learning. And I think you articulated it very well, that it takes a long cycle. I would also argue, for that textbook and that teacher, you're also paying for those 40 buildings, that, chow hall over there, folks that aren't, paying to go to college. I mean, you're paying for all of that.
Absolutely.
For 50 people to be in a room with one professor that probably hasn't been in an actual marketing job in 15 years.
Oh, exactly. I mean, if I had to learn, I would do what I did. I mean, I was not a marketing person a year ago. Yep. I became one, and I'm seeing the value in it. But it's a constant learning opportunity. When I talk to my co-founder, Joe has insights that I can't even imagine. And just the way he addresses a problem, he solves it so quickly. He sees something, he goes, "Yep, here's where we need to go." And I go, "Oh, I was still thinking at the tactical level, and you're already building a campaign around how to solve this pain point for the customer." So that's invaluable.
Love it, and couldn't agree more. I've got a big IT background, and I tell you, I would tell folks, if you handed me a resume, here's what you do with the technical resume.
Absolutely.
Get your hands on that keyboard and tell me you can keep out China from visiting my laptop, or start chucking code and show something pretty on the screen in about 5 minutes, right? So
exactly.
I get it. So Tristan, we're at the part of the show we like to call the big idea, and segment where we have our guests talk about maybe a personal challenge in their journey And if they were king or queen for a day and they could wave the wand and make that problem go away, we've only got one requirement on this, Tristan. You can't say the word reform, because reform in this town, and you know what I mean, means nothing happens. So you got to fix it. So what say you, my friend?
Tough one. I would say the biggest thing we need to do is we need to, can't use that word. We need to hack the transition process and ensure that everyone actually leaves with contacts. It's great to have the opportunity to know how to write a resume. It's great to have the opportunity to go through some classes that tell you how to wear a tie. But the reality is nothing in life happens without personal contacts. So if we can help people establish those contacts, if we can help people go to these LinkedIn workshops and make all the connections so that before they ever leave, they've already had conversations. They might already have mentors lined up through great organizations like Veterati, right? Like, I mean, these opportunities are something that should be, they should be a part of the system. You should never have to leave the service without having all of that already explained to you and set you up for success. And the same thing for all of the military spouses. No military spouse should go through her first PCS without already having something lined up on the receiving end.
Sure.
So that networking aspect cannot be overstated.
Yeah, I tell you, we've had a lot of folks talk about maybe a public-private partnership around the TAP model. Yeah. And wouldn't it be interesting is if, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, and these others would all contribute resources at the different locations, right? Pick a base. And then, you know, they'll spend a month at each of the bases and they rotate around and get people transition. Here's how you use LinkedIn. Here's what a good profile kind of looks like. This is what'll catch. These are groups that you may be interested in.
Absolutely. Huge value.
One-on-one sort of training.
Yeah, 100%. And Daniel Savage is doing that right now. He's doing those workshops. I mean, they're phenomenal. He works at LinkedIn. He's the head of their program. I mean, you can't do better than connecting with someone like that.
Yeah, completely agree. And I know he's doing a bunch of good work. We're trying to get him on the show. So I think that's a great advice on hacking transition. Do you have anything else that around if you were king for a day?
I would say the king for the day model is interesting, right? Because I would build my network first. I would immediately build my network. I would find the most talented people and I would employ them constantly. I mean, I would create the train the trainer model where there isn't a single veteran who can possibly transition, PCS, consider getting out of the service without being fully informed of what all needs to happen for them.
Love it. Great idea. So, Tristan, how do folks get more information on 0 Hour Media? Because I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of folks that are going to watch this, and whether they need to get smarter on marketing and those capabilities for their company. I'm sure they know folks who do. So what's a good way for people to get a hold of you?
So they can connect with me on LinkedIn. Tristan Flannery, co-founder 0 Hour Media. Is pretty easy. There's only one of me. So, please connect with me there. Also, look at us on Instagram. You can come to our website, 0hour.media. My co-founder Joe is on LinkedIn and on Facebook. He's really active there. He's active on Twitter as well. Like, email us, Tristan@0hour.media, Joe@0hour.media. We're super responsive. We're on all the platforms. There's only another company that's based out of the UK. It's definitely not us. not throwing on any red coats this week. So it's
yeah, we took care of that 250 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Tristan, I really enjoyed it, man. I learned a lot. As any small business, you're always trying to get smarter on this. So hopefully our audience enjoyed this. We'll make sure and get it out via our networks, and we'll share that back out with you. And hopefully folks will reach out to you or Joe and set up some time. I tell you, I love the concept of the launched in, and you don't just have to be a startup, man. If you're a year into it, 2 years into it, everybody goes to the doctor,
Absolutely. We'll do a quick checkup. We'll make some great things happen and, hopefully help you grow your business to scale.
Yeah. So I tell you, it's been an honor to have you on. We're going to look to maybe down the road what would be fun to do is maybe do a group sort of town hall with you and maybe some of your customers as you guys, and maybe what I can do is have some fun and here's a scenario, and then let you guys kind of work it out online and let our audience come in and give some ideas along the way.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. We're totally up for that. So look forward to it.
Right on, right on. We'll come back around in the spring. Tristan, thank you very much. Folks, stay tuned for upcoming episodes. We're going to have AJ Tata. Hopefully some of you have read some of his books. If you've ever read Jack Reacher, get rid of him. Go with Jake Mahegan. He's going to be coming up, and we're going to have the military, the veteran, the guy that's running all of the veterans initiatives over at Koch Industries tomorrow. So you guys stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.